Hello, I'm Tiffany, creator of Red Petal Patterns, and this is Intermediate Basics for Beginners. And today I'm going to make one more video about seaming up your garments because, again, it is a very technical and detailed process. But once you get it, you have it. It's not something you have to think about later. But I do want to cover one more situation that you'll come up against, and that is sleeves. On a drop sleeve sweater, that is going to be a sweater that is a square in the front, a square in the back. It's got a slit down one side, and that's where you fold a square in half and stick it in there and make your sleeve opening. And there's no shaping or anything to it. Ideally, any other garment that you make that has a separate sleeve is going to be shaped. And it could be shaped like this, or it could be very dramatic with how big this hump is. This is called the cap, and then this is the sleeve. And your sleeve cap shaping is for your shoulder. So this is where your shoulder sits, at the top of your shoulder, and then your armhole actually curves just a little bit and goes in here where the armpit is. And these curves are meant to accommodate this, and depending on the size of the sweater and depending on the style of the sweater, you're going to have more or less dramatic arches and points in here. I told you that to let you know that at some point you got to put this inside the body of the sweater. There are two ways to do this, but both are going to use the same techniques to attach the sleeve. And one way is going to be to have the shoulder attached and lay the body pieces out flat, and then match your shoulder up, the point in the armpit, the center of the underarm, center of the underarm, and that's going to be these points on your sleeve, center of the underarm, center of the underarm. And you match all of that up, and you start at the center of the sleeve and the shoulder seam. And that is where you start, and then you will work down to the underarm and down to the underarm. And you're going to do this because if there is a mistake and your math is off on how you do this, you don't want the mistake to be up here where it shows. You want it to be down here in the armpit, and you go both sides so your mistake will be evenly spread instead of one big goof on one side. This is where the math formula that I covered in the last video will come in handy, and that's because on this piece you're going to be working with a row here and then stitches here, and on this piece you're going to be working with stitches here and row here. So I covered end to end and edge to edge, and those use different variations of a mattress stitch and where that goes. And then I covered if you were doing an end to an edge and how to do that. But this has an end to an edge and an end to an edge the other direction. So you still need, preferably go back to that previous video because I give you how to figure the math, because this number of stitches is not going to be the same as this number of rows, and you'll need to do a little math to make sure that adds up to the same length. You don't want to just do 1 to 1 to 1 across there. It won't line up. You could just pin it, and pin it, and you can use a small piece of yarn that and I suggest doing this anyway if you're doing a sleeve. It makes it so much easier to keep everything from shifting around. Take a small piece of yarn and weave it in here and here, and then tie it in a bow. And that will keep it out of your way while also keeping these pieces together, and it's not going to snag on anything like a stitch holder might. And you would do the same thing here and here, and that keeps everything from shifting around while you're doing this math 1 inch at a time across here. The other way to do this is going to result in the same seam, but it's a little bit more advanced, and that would involve sewing the side seams together, stitching up the side seams together on the sweater, the edge to edge, leaving the hole, stitching up your underarm of your sleeve so it's now a tube. Then you will take, so this is my little bitty baby sleeve here, you will take the sleeve and turn it inside out, and you will take your body that's right side out, and you will shove, this is the cuff, this is the cap, this is the underarm seam, this is the shoulder, this is the underarm. You want to take the sleeve as if you took your shirt off and stuffed your sleeve inside of it and didn't turn it right side out. So it's going to go cuff in, inside out, so your wrong sides are touching. And you'll put it in that hole, wrong sides touching. So what you're dealing with is a right side and a right side. And then you will pin it here, and pin it here, and all of this will be together. So you'll pin it at the bottom, the center bottom, line up your seams, center top to your shoulder seam, and then I would, without really stretching it or anything, I would also match up where your armhole, because your armhole is usually going to make kind of a straight part and then a sharp turn, and you want to kind of line up that straight and sharp point and kind of get a midway point in there. And you want to pin all of that with the small piece of yarn that goes through both pieces and ties in a bow. And then you want, again, you're going to start at the shoulder seam and work your way down to the underarm, and the shoulder seam and work your way down to the underarm, using the math that I already explained in the last video for how to determine putting a edge to end, and that works for borders or sleeves, and that will be the name of the video. Seams, edge to ends, edges to ends. And that is how you put a sleeve in, especially if you've eliminated your seams. So eliminated the sleeve. So if you did a seamless side sweater, the body of the sweater, all in one piece, and then all you had to stitch up was the shoulder seam, but then that left you this hole because it's not going to line up to put your sleeve in flat. That is how you put your sleeve in. Inside out, cuff first, inside the body of the sweater. And it makes sense if you took it flat like this and imagine it all pinned in and then pinched together. And you could do it this way, but it's easier to keep it contained if you put it to the inside and do it that way. Either way, as long as it's pinned in those important places, you'll be able to work, but you always want to seam from the right side. And that is putting a sleeve on, and I hope that you like or share or maybe even subscribe, because I really don't want to be anybody's secret. and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys.